I'm here at the COP27 venue in Sharm El-Sheikh, Egypt. For the past 2 weeks, I've been representing EY and Swiss Youth for Climate by organizing events, running meetings, networking, and advocating for more ambitious climate action. On average per day, I enjoyed just under 5 hours of sleep, ate about 1.4 meals, and walked over 15 kilometers to get from venue to venue. It has been an extremely exciting and impactful COP for me. I helped organize 4 presentations and 2 panel discussions for Alessandro Cataldo from EY and participated in 3 meetings with the Swiss delegation. Today was the last day of official COP27. As you see, many of the 97 pavilions have closed down already. They have been presenting a wealth of fascinating content, this year with a notable presence of food and agriculture-related topics, which are represented in 5 pavilions devoted exclusively to them. At any given time, there were some 50 different presentations running simultaneously, which it took me about an hour per day to sift through. I'd like to compare COP to the medieval market town. In the center, there's a castle where political treaties are negotiated. At COP27, they made up half the 33,000 participants. Around it, however, is the market that brings together people from across the world, about 1/3 of participants here. COP has been criticized for becoming too big, but I think it is a very good thing. Climate change is far too big an issue to be left to the government negotiators alone. I'm very happy to see that the private sector has come fully on board. Despite some unavoidable greenwashing, I can say from experience that it has been a fantastic catalyst for private sector sustainability and climate action, as well as partnerships with the public sector. It is ironic that COP27 is both one of the largest COPs ever, as well as likely one of the least successful ones. For the negotiators, the most intense time lies ahead, in which they will keep working probably throughout the night and weekend to get something tangible on paper, but the hopes have not been high. We left COP26 last year with a feeling of hope. The word fossil fuels made it into an official document for the very first time ever since COPs began in 1995. The silver lining of COVID-19 was that emissions dropped as fast as they would need to drop every year until 2050 to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, showing that it was possible indeed. COP26, of course, recommitted to it, and the details of Article 6 on cross-border carbon markets were finalized, potentially unleashing the largest source of climate investment yet. 2022, however, brought about many distractions from climate change. Tensions in Taiwan and the war in Ukraine pushed many governments to divert COVID recovery funds that were supposed to help with a green transition to military spending. Developed countries, who long have criticized developing countries for subsidizing fossil fuels, went all in doing so themselves. Today, fossil fuel subsidies amount to about 7% of world GDP. But we have the solutions. The photovoltaic principle was actually discovered almost a decade before the first oil well was drilled in 1847. At COP27, fossil fuels played a major role. Allegedly, over 600 lobbyists from the oil and gas industry were present and were invited by the hosts to be part of the official program. Proposals have been floated to exclude them from the process on account of the potential conflict of interest it presents, and some parties have even been pushing for an explicit phase-out of all fossil fuels to be part of this year's agreement. The hope is that they at least become part of the solution. I'm relatively confident that the energy problem will be solved eventually, since it is just a matter of economics. The question is whether it will be solved fast enough. But I'm far less confident of the global food crisis and resource scarcity-induced violence, which is accelerated by climate change. 10% of humanity is hungry on a regular basis. 500,000 are in a state of famine today. While the world made great progress fighting hunger for decades, since 2014, hunger has been rising. Wheat production peaked in 2019, after which climate change, the pandemic, and now the Ukraine war have led to decreases. The most food-insecure regions are the same ones that are the most threatened by violence and climate change. The world has lost 25 million tons of corn and wheat production this year, equivalent to all the least developed countries' entire annual consumption. The average person in Egypt spends almost 1/3 of their income on food, going up to about 40% in sub-Saharan Africa. An increase in prices for them is deadly. Due to a lack of inputs and manpower, Ukraine will sow 20% less wheat this year than last year, pointing toward an even grimmer 2023. Compounding that, the prices of gas mean that fertilizer production will also slow. Regenerative agriculture is potentially a solution to all these problems. The top meter of soil contains almost 3 times as much carbon as all plants above ground and the atmosphere combined. Once implemented, it not only powerfully contributes to CO2 drawdown, but has a host of other ecosystem benefits, including on soil, water quality, and public health. It also is more resilient and productive in the face of climate change. That is why EY has launched the Regenerative Agriculture Breadbasket Initiative to emulate the success of the COVID-19 response and apply a similarly coordinated approach to combating the global food crisis. The plan is to set up major breadbaskets at 4 strategic locations around the world to replace or supplement the wheat production of Ukraine and stabilize local and global food supplies while combating climate change with one of the most powerful carbon sinks we know of. After every COP, critical and defeatist voices are loud. Greta Thunberg did not even come to this year, calling it a greenwashing COP27. But as hopeless as it is all we have. It is the only internationally coordinated government action platform on climate change. And I am very happy to see that the world's largest conference is on climate change. We cannot afford to wait any longer. The door of no return, once we cross tipping points, has not yet been reached. Climate change is still only a human problem, a political, a narrative, and an organizational problem. Let us make enormous progress onto COP28. Let us make it the COP in which governments, in partnership with the civil society and businesses, not only commit to radical action, but actually make progress ahead of it. Thank you to EY and Swiss Youth for Climate for this fantastic opportunity to fight the world's greatest problem. I am already beginning preparations for next year's COP28.